Good morning. How are you doing? It's a beautiful day, isn't it? What a glorious day. Hence, I'm heading out for a walk, but it's a bit of a mystery walk today. A mystery walk in the Lea Valley. The reason it's a mystery walk is because I've had quite bad back pain, in fact very bad back pain, for the last 2 or 3 days. And it was particularly bad yesterday. I went for a walk on Watts Flats and I was in a lot of pain last night. But I've woken up at like 6:30. You know, you can't turn in bed. So I just gave up. I've had about 4 hours sleep. But I figured that actually it's more comfortable to be walking than it is to be sitting or lying. So I'm still in a bit of discomfort, but significantly less discomfort as when I try and sit down. Like trying to sit down and have a cup of tea this morning was really uncomfortable. Whereas I went for a little walk around the block and that was okay. So I get, you know, at the moment I'm getting little shoots and shafts of pain at my back, but it's okay. It's just pain, right? So, but who knows how long I'll last. Last night I just basically just sort of fell over on the sofa. So you will head up the Lea Valley towards Waltham Abbey that way. We may not get as far as Waltham Abbey, we may not get as far as Walthamstow, but let's see where we end up. It's all the joy and of the mystery of the adventure. You've got to embrace the adventure, right? And maybe we can draw some power, some energy from the sacred River Lea, some healing energy from the sacred River Lea. I should be wearing my sacred River Lea t-shirt today, but it's I bought my own one in black, and it's not a black t-shirt day, but I'll put a link below. There's a link below to the sacred River Lea t-shirt, which was suggested by one of the viewers here. Thank you so much for that suggestion. So have to take a look at that t-shirt if you like it. It helps support the channel. So first of all, we're just going to head down here through Leyton to the marshes and take it from there. Just go down Vicarage Road here, Leyton. Before I forget, I just want to give a mention and a plug to a wonderful fundraising project that one of the viewers of this channel is doing, Alex. He usually comments down below, and Alex is doing an incredible challenge where he's basically walking and running every tube line on the underground, and he did the entire Metropolitan line in a single day. That's Liverpool Street to Chesham, which is amazing. He sent me a little private video of that. What an achievement. And he's raising money for Haugen House, a wonderful children's charity based in Woodford, local to here. So I'll put a link below to the sponsorship that you can sponsor Alex on this incredible sort of fundraising effort he's doing, this amazing journey. It's very peaceful this morning, very quiet. Just going to turn off Vicarage Road down Park Road towards Marsh Lane Fields. Marsh Lane. Just going to cross Lea Bridge Road now onto Leyton Marshes. So I've made it this far. So we'll just come off this big cycle path here and turn down here between the riding centre and the ice rink. This is interesting. I don't know if you can see. Oh, there's a circle of people. It looks vaguely kind of ceremonial. Something going on. This is now more or less the reverse of the walk I did after last week's walk when we went down Coppermill Lane to Springfield Park, and I walked home down the navigation over the marshes, over Marsh Lane. So I'm reconnecting with the end of that walk there. And now crossing the beautiful Leyton Lammas lands, named from the this Anglo-Saxon loaf mass, that period where you would gather in the hay and then you could put your animals out to pasture. See, I'll put a link below to my video where I walk around the marshlands here. I've done 2 videos over this thing here. That ceremonial thing is actually, it looks like a film shoot or a fashion shoot. Oh, it's lovely to see the cattle grazing out on the ancient lammas lands. They play a really important role in the ecosystem of the marshes. Cattle have been grazed here for thousands of years. So here we are. You've seen this map a number of times on previous walks, I'm assuming, but here I am here. So we're on the River Lea navigation now. It's interesting here, they use the spelling of L-E-E, whereas elsewhere you see it as L-E-A. Apparently there is no standardised spelling, that's what I've heard anyway. And this little path is called Sandy Lane. You had Leyton Marsh, the Bomb Crater Pond there, self-explanatory, South Marsh, the other Lammas Meadow here, and Walthamstone Marshes. And we're just going to carry on, I think, straight along the footpath, then we'll have to cross over here on the Horseshoe Bridge. Just had a nice chat with my dad on the phone. He's 84 years old, coming up 85. He's got the same problem with his back. He's out for a few days, and he decided to play golf yesterday. In similar kind of temperatures at midday, full 18 holes on a former championship course, and he played the whole round, so that's the spirit. And here's the famous spot where Au.Ra built his triplane that he took out onto the marshes and managed to get off the ground for a brief period of time, long enough for it to count as a flight, and the first flight by a British-made plane on British soil. And then later, Au.Ra formed the manufacturer Au.Ra. Au.Ra planes were a major British aircraft manufacturer, particularly for the Royal Air Force, and they had a big factory further up the River Lea at Tottenham. To say the Anchor and Hope pub over there looks like a really good place for a pint when I walked past the other night. Great, you can sit out there on the towpath in the fresh air enjoying a lovely pint of ale. I believe that has is it the smallest public bar in London? That building there always slightly fascinates me. The one on the towpath there, framed by the estate, got a slightly sort of vaguely Dutch feel about it, hasn't it? I was watching a bit of Cruising the Cut last night, one of my favourite YouTube channels. It's David's adventures living on a narrow boat. Brilliant YouTube channel, really relaxing watching him cruising around the canal network. Highly recommended. Just got to cross this bridge here. It's the other side of the cut, and then we'll walk up that side. This beautiful boat here, what a majestic colour. Very early contender for best boat name of the day, the Hobbit. Got a great bit of sculpture of rusted bits of metal retrieved from the canal. So that's Springfield Park up there where we were the other day, just on Friday, a couple of days ago. I'll put the link below for those of you who didn't see that video. Now we're just going to carry on along the towpath, see how far we can get. So this is the furthest along the Lea that I've been during the lockdown. It started end of March. It's very liberating to be breaking out here. It'd be great. Just any distance beyond here now is a massive bonus. The back's doing all right actually. I had to take a couple of Nurofen back there, but it's great. It's lovely to be by the water. Got some of the old wharfs along here. We're by Watermint Quay here. You can see some of the old wharf structures along there. Now a perch for birds. And my dad used to come up here to collect veneer board that had been brought up from the docks. They bring it up from the docks and the barges unload it onto the wharfs here. And Dad would come up with a big truck from High Wycombe, pick up the veneer board and take it back to Wycombe to be turned into fine furniture, which was then exported all around the world. Here we have Markfield Park, South Tottenham now. And behind that bank of trees there, you've got the chain of reservoirs that we saw from Coppermill Lane the other day, and then up from Mansfield Park in Chingford. And they run all the way up the Lea Valley until you get to, how far do they go? Not quite as far as Waltham Abbey, but under the bridge. See, look how the spellings change. Lea, 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 LW. This vista here at Tottenham Hale is changing all the time. So even more tower blocks going here beside the lock at Tottenham. Look at all the rubbish is captured here as this tributary flows out into the Lea navigation. I think this is one of the branches of the Pims Brook coming out here. I'm at Tottenham Hale now. I have to be honest, when I left home this morning I wasn't sure I'd get this far, so this is good. So anything beyond here now is a bonus. Tottenham locks here. The first lock of the day. I'm sure there'll be many more before it's over. Or I hope there'll be many more before it's over. All that algae in the water. Been walking about 2 hours now. I don't know how many miles that is. It's probably about 6 miles. Normally I'd have a little rest about now, have a little sit down for 5 minutes, but the problem is if I sit down I'm not sure I can get up again. Sitting down and getting up is a problem for me at the moment. So I'm just going to have to walk for as long as I can and then risk having a sit down. Couple of majestic boats over there. These are what they are, sail barges, or I'm sure somebody with knowledge of boats will tell me in the comments below. And this is actually my first time along the Lea this year, which is incredible. I love walking along this river, as I'm sure the regular viewers of this channel will know, and walking along the hills either side of the Lea Valley. I haven't actually been along the river this year this far. So I went up to Waltham Abbey for the first walk of the year, but I went up into the hills. So this is, a big moment in my year, and it's really amazing to be out here today. And now we get the Lea Valley pylons. Go and get the right blackberries. Lock number 2 of the day, Stonebridge Lock now. And you can walk on the opposite bank over there. I love these bits of infrastructure you see around the navigation. You get them all the way along its course, some pipes here crossing the water. This walk has lots of different kind of moods and phases. Here, we're moving into a sort of industrial zone here as we come up towards Edmonton, London Waste. You see the massive chimney up there. There's a big old bit of waste ground to our right. The Au.Ra bus depot up here, massive bus depot. Not seen the buses driving along the towpath here before. This is the Lea Valley Rust Belt, and I remember the first time I came along here, I was so sort of almost overwhelmed by it all. It was almost like the perfect psychogeographical landscape. Here is the inner workings of the city laid bare, shoved out to these areas where people don't pass by. It's kind of hidden, but this is the stuff that fuels the real kind of mechanics and the economy of urban life. And here it is, beside this beautiful, tranquil tract of water. There's a cafe over there. Apparently it's open. And now, underneath the North Circular, I think this is the North Circular anyway. Returning to old paths give a kind of strange impression of time. Last time I walked under here and along the Lea navigation was almost exactly a year ago. I just led one of my walks for the Waltham Forest Borough of Culture over the marshlands, finished it at the Walthamstow wetlands, and then I just carried on. And I went up to, where did I go? I went up to Waltham Abbey that day. But that feels a lot more recent than a year ago. But it's 12 months ago, and how much has changed in that 12 months? So I see this place has been renamed from London Waste to London Energy. Is that a clever bit of greenwashing, or is it actually a different type of usage? This is another of those occasions when you wish cameras could capture smell, because the air near the London Waste, London Energy, and there's a bit of farmland here. It's a really pungent smell, sort of like sewage treatment basically. Just under 3 hours and 8.5 miles in. And the back's doing okay. It's doing mostly okay. Little kind of sharp spasms of pain, but aside from that, lot better than I expected. And also a lot better than it would have been if I had stayed at home, sat on the sofa. So far so good. We're looking good to get to Waltham Abbey, then I'll review the situation there. Our next lock up ahead, I think this is Pickett's Lock, and there's a boat there in the lock. Midwinter, about 5 years ago now, I did leave home 7 o'clock in the morning, feeling ill, and walked to Hertford along the Lea Valley. That walk was, I think it was about 23 miles, but I took a slightly shorter route to Waltham Abbey, a more direct route, and I walked on the across the ridge through Walthamstow, through Chingford, and then came down into Waltham Abbey. I think I came down into Waltham Abbey the other side of Leytonstone, which is a great walk in, and it sort of truncates that distance a little bit. So this is I'll see how far I get. I'd quite like to see if I can get at least as far as Broxbourne today. Who knows, I can't take it for granted with the sore back. The wonderful Camden Town Brewery here, quite a long way from Camden Town. I was drinking one of their beers just the other night. And a little marina there, some quite finely painted boats in there, aren't there? So just 3.5 miles to Waltham Abbey now. Here we have Ponder's End Lock. Pub here by the river at Ponder's End is actually a little bit of a disappointment. I went in there one evening after walking past it many times and thinking, wow, that would be amazing, and actually you can't actually see the water unless you've got one of those two tables over there. Isn't it lovely when you get a phone call from one of your favourite YouTubers? Oh, there was the lovely Sean James Cameron just called me up. Sean does a really brilliant allotment channel. It's really lovely. He's also got a second channel where he walks around South London, goes out on the London Loop and stuff. But they're really beautifully relaxing videos. Highly recommend it. Also, actually, they're really useful if you're a gardener. I've taken quite a lot of advice from Sean's videos. There are some points that are real markers on this walk. And this is one of them here. It's a vast structure, isn't it? Brimsdown Power Station. It's the kind of mother of all these pylons feeding out its power along the Lea Valley. The further out you get from London, and the more noxious the industries along the side of the canal, the fewer people you see. Once you cross that bit back there, you cross beneath the North Circular, people kind of drift away. There's not so many walkers, not so many cyclists, although quite a few, and not as many boats moored up along the navigation here. I don't know if that's because they're not allowed to, but it gets a lot quieter anyway the further out you get. And you see people again around Waltham Abbey, and that becomes a pattern as you go along the river. You see people when you get near a town, a little settlement, and then they drift away and you have an hour by yourself. Coming up to Enfield now. Enfield Lock. So here we have the River Lea, and we're in Enfield. Lea Enfield, which gave its name to the rifle that was manufactured at the famous small arms factory here in Enfield, the Lea Enfield rifle. Someone asked me in the comments recently if I'd ever been around the Gunpowder Park here at Enfield, and actually Gunpowder Park is at Waltham Abbey, isn't it, I think? Anyway, it's up here somewhere, and I've never been around the Gunpowder Park, so that'll be for another day though, because I'm too busy walking today. These are really lovely cottages here, aren't they? And here we have Leyton Marsh, another one of those markers on this walk. I often hit this point around sunset, so it's quite strange for me to be hitting it about 1 p.m. Leyton Marsh lock. How many locks is that now? 5? 6? And there up ahead we have the M25 orbital motorway, the road that will forever belong to the great writer Ian Sinclair.
What was the role of Waltham Abbey in London Orbital? What was that?
In London Orbital, it was a very significant sighting for me, because the initial walk I was coming up the right line of zero longitude until by accident I hit the M25, and crossing that found myself in Waltham Abbey, which I knew the grounds of as being a real oasis of peace, and that King Harold was buried there. So it seemed in a way a kind of burial of an old kind of England and the beginning of a new kind of England, which symbolised by the Doom painting with the red road to hell and the white road to paradise that was on the wall inside. So we made this the symbolic, metaphoric centrepiece of the whole book. And I walked here with Bill Drummond, who'd kissed the M25 like a pope, like kissing the tarmac of a new kind of spatial entity. And from this point, then the walk was launched, and we went counterclockwise to exorcise the Millennium Dome. And finally, at the return, a whole year later, we stumbled through Epping Forest in the dark and the rain, with the headlights sweeping us past those great earthworks, and came limping back into the church and into the pub with Kevin Jackson, the writer and journalist, who was completely wrecked at this point, and celebrated our conclusion of this epic voyage.
And I think walking along this stretch of the Lea navigation now will forever remind me of the day I walked along here with the amazing filmmaker Andrew Cotting and Ian Sinclair and their merry band of mummers for the film that became Edith Walks. And I was only able to walk the short section with them from Waltham Abbey down to Enfield Lock due to my parenting responsibilities at the time. I had to go and pick the kids up from school. They carried on all the way down to Hastings. It's a beautiful film. I've talked about it before. Follows the journey of Edith Swanneck travelling from Waltham Abbey to recover the remains of King Harold, the Battle of Hastings, where he would have been in a terrible state by the time she got there. And some of those remains are said to have been brought back and buried at Waltham Abbey. It's a great, great film. I urge you to seek it out and watch it, and I was really delighted to work on that film with them for that short bit and make a contribution, shoot some footage. It was a brilliant day. It's funny to see this being built over the years. I remember when it was all kind of boarded off and it was just a building site, and now it's finished. They look quite pleasant, don't they? About half a mile up the road there, we have the incredibly important historic town of Waltham Abbey, with the abbey itself there, sat by the course of the old River Lea. You can see it's the border between Essex and Hertfordshire as well. And I need to keep on the riverbank if I'm to keep going today, rather than take a diversion into Waltham Abbey. I think that'd be enough to grind me to a halt. So there are a number of watercourses kind of breaking off at this point at Waltham Abbey. There's the course of the old River Lea. There's another stream or two as well, and there's a number of lakes all through there. It can add quite significantly to the distance as you walk around the lakes. So I'm just going to stick to the navigation. It's about time I risked sitting down, otherwise I won't make it much further. Wish me luck. That went better than expected. What's become my now standard walking sandwich of a cheese and rocket. It's like a Polish cheese that I had today, and some of those Lotus Biscoff biscuits, which are just delicious. But I couldn't actually sit down there for too long because the back was starting to hurt a little bit. It's getting a little bit of pain in the sensitive region, so I've got to move on. When I left home this morning at just after 9:30, I didn't think I'd make it to Waltham Abbey, but actually I have to say I've got less pain in my back now than I had this morning when I started walking. So whether it's that I'm less aware of the pain or it's just shifted around a bit, or not, I don't know. I can't explain it. So I'm just going to keep going now. These are all bonus miles as far as I'm concerned. So it's 18 minutes past 2, and I've done 14.1 miles. Yeah, I mean, let's see how many more I can do. Might not be too many more. And we still haven't had a better boat name than the Hobbit. Quite a long way to go though. There's some lovely meadows and lakes off either side of the Lea navigation here. I've walked all around those paths over there. Really delightful, particularly in winter actually. Oh no, bad timing because I just had my sit down. If I sit down again, have a pint, I may not get going. What a dilemma. Pub boat. I feel like I should stop counting the locks if I am going to stay on the navigation. There's going to be a few more, I think. And this one is Waltham Common Lock. So the big decision point is Broxbourne. That's the next target. I can still stand up when I get to Broxbourne. I can still walk. At that point I've got a few choices I can make. I can either go on to the new river path, and that takes out the meander of the River Lea. I've done it quite a few times. It is really lovely along there actually. Or I can carry on along the River Lea as it meanders. It goes down to Rye House and St Margaret's. That means I don't know how far I'll get along it that way. So it's a bit of a choice. I mean, as well, if I wanted to get to Hertford, the option would be to go inland from Broxbourne actually. There's some paths across fields that go to Hertford. It's a really lovely places over there where I've walked in the winter before, in the snow in fact. So many choices, but obviously it's all predicated on the state of my back and my legs. I mean, at this point now, 15 miles, let's be honest, even without a bad back I'd be, coming towards the end of a walk normally. But let's see how we get on. Got loads of time, got another 7 hours of daylight. So I don't know if you can see that, just poking out behind the trees there. A great lump of concrete is one of the remnants of the outer London defence ring. I'm not entirely sure what was up there. I think it may have been an anti-aircraft gun. This is now near Cheshunt Station. This is one of my favourite stretches of the Lea along here. Fantastic canoeing lakes here at Cheshunt. There were some Olympic events held out here for London 2020. I'm not sure if it was on this lake here or a little bit further along. I've always had a real fondness for this little bridge here, this little concrete bridge. I think it used to carry a light railway, I've been told in the past. It's starting to get a bit tired now, and not to be surprised really, coming up for 16 miles. But it's funny, like physically the phases you go through on a walk, and to be honest with you, I usually get tired before now. Maybe it's because I had the focus of my back to distract me. So I need another rest, a little bit up here, to see whether I can carry on. Because my longest walk to date so far since the lockdown has been 17 miles that I did a couple of weeks ago through Epping Forest. That was delightful. I didn't make a video of that, I apologise. Another lock.
What's this one? He watches you every day, and
Excellent.
that's how I met you.
That was lovely. That lady just said, "Have you got a YouTube channel?" I said, "Yeah, I love your videos, so I'm making one now. Do you want to be in it?" What's your name?
Jackie.
Julianne.
Julianne.
Jackie and Julianne.
Yeah. They're really, really good.
Oh,
Been really,
thank you very
really
much.
enjoyed them. Fantastic.
Lovely to meet you anyway.
Lovely to meet you.
Have a good day.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
So just a mile or two inland from here, to the left of the screen, we've got the old Roman Ermine Street. It cuts through Wormley Woods and across the fields up through Hertford. And I've walked that part of Ermine Street, and it's a great walk. Pier of another demolished bridge here. See what we're going to cross the cut. It's really quite hot now. I think it's about 23, 24 degrees. It's beautiful though, I'm not complaining. It's a really gorgeous day. It's just slightly adds to the fatigue. I think now I'm remembering why I did the walk from Leytonstone to Hertford before on the shorter route and in midwinter. So you're hemmed in by these enormous reeds here. What a dramatic sight. Always makes me think of the Viking longboats sliding along the river here up to Hertford, or maybe up to their stronghold at Widbury Hill Fort. Aqueducts Lock, number 8. Mile and a half to Broxbourne. Straight down here. For about the last month, I've definitely had a kind of strong sort of pang to get out of London, to get out and sort of into more of the countryside and the open space. So the other week I did a walk through Epping Forest out to Upshire, so I got that little shot of countryside then, but today is definitely needed this. Obviously now it means I've got to get the train home, which will be the first time since the lockdown, so it's a big barrier to cross. Had my first pint at the pub at the weekend as well, so sort of breaching lots of boundaries. I went to a great little local place called the Phillybrook in Leytonstone, close to where I live. It's brilliant. Lovely pint of beer from Gravity Well Brewery in Leyton, in one of those breweries in the railway arches. It was fantastic. It was a great way to break the long absence from the pub. King's Weir here. There's a couple of other big weirs along the way, Dobbs Weir being a very dramatic one, and also the site of a particularly nice pub with a big garden. So I've not spotted that one before. That's another part of the Outer London Defence Ring over there. That's a pillbox hidden in the reeds beside the river. They never would have spotted that. And that lovely little stretch of marsh meadow here. This is the approach to Broxbourne. Every stretch of the river from here right the way through to Hertford is pure delight. So best boat name of the walk suddenly takes a twist. Here we have Life, the Universe and Everything. Of course, the book by Douglas Adams in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. And what a great book it is. The question is, does that beat The Hobbit? You tell me below, I'll let you decide. This is where I've got to make sure I stay on the right side of the river for the River Lea walk and avoid ending up on the new river if that's what I want to do. So I think I go that way towards Dobbs Weir. So it's 3:48 and that is 18.7 miles so far. Past a couple of fellows back there who are magnet fishing off the bridge. There's some great magnet fishing videos on YouTube. People usually do them in canals. And yeah, they've got like an old scythe out the river and a road sign. Obviously just a bit of fun, but people have found some quite interesting things doing that in the past. Also passed a really lovely pub on the river there, the Crown. I thought, oh, shall I? 18.7 miles. But this is the stage where it's touch and go. If I stop, I might not get up again. So I'm going to try and keep going. Although there's another pub up here at Dobbs Weir. So if my aim had been to get to Hertford, then the thing to do would have been to gone via Broxbourne and gone on the new river. But I wanted to make this my longest walk along the River Lea yet, longest continuous walk along the River Lea. So now coming up to what, over 19 miles now. Nearly all of it, apart from 2 miles from home to the river, it's been along the River Lea. So this is now definitely my longest continuous walk along the River Lea, no matter how much further I get. So everything at this stage is a massive bonus, and it's only coming up to like 4 o'clock. So if my legs and my back hold up, who knows? This is Cartagena Lock. Just a lovely fella, just stopped on his bike and got off to say hello, watches the videos. Lovely to meet you, Danny. This has been such a convivial walk. Had a lovely chat with that lady back there who was paddleboarding. I was just curious to know whether it was as easy as she made it look. She was very humble and said, yeah, kind of, you know, after a while. Looks like a very relaxing thing to do, doesn't it, paddleboarding? Oh, helps keep you going when you have those little social interactions with people. And this path here now is just loaded with memories of my great walk along the Stort navigation, which I started at Broxbourne and walked along this way to pick up the Stort. That is in my all-time top 10 walks, that one. That was such a delightful walk. When you see the magnet fishers back there was a couple more pulling out horseshoes and stuff. And I said to them, you know, there's going to be Viking helmets in here. There could be Bronze Age shields and Bronze Age swords in this river. Don't know how thoroughly it's been excavated, and there's so much activity along this river. Burial mounds littered all around in the hills here. This river's been an important waterway for thousands of years. I love to think of Bronze Age people in their little canoes and coracles making their way along here. The Vikings, the Saxons. Here we have Dobbs Weir Lock. Just lock number 6. The beautiful lakes over here at Nazing Meads. Maybe I should finally have a pint at the Fish and Eels. I must have walked past this place quite a few times without going in. Let's give it a go, shall we? So that's where I was sat, out on that terrace there overlooking the River Lea. What a perfect place to have a pint. Walked walked past that pub so many times and looked across and thought, one day I'll stop there for a pint. And it's never felt like the right time. So, celebrating my longest walk along the River Lea is a good time to have a pint there to mark the occasion. And also, only my second pint in a pub since lockdown. So, good place to help break that long drought. Praise the pylons, and these are majestic pylons as well. This giant behemoth on the river feels like a familiar old friend. This is one of those marker points, but I also feel like I haven't seen it for a few years. You can imagine it starring in a sort of heart of darkness journey along the River Lea. I think I can see it now. I was just thinking, what is the heart of darkness of the River Lea? And it's definitely set sometime deep in the past. I'm thinking, is it a Bronze Age story where some chieftain has set up a kind of rogue settlement up here, somewhere near Ware or Hertford in the hills, and someone from the Trinovantes, I think they were Iron Age there, weren't they? He's had to travel up the Lea to kind of, see what's going on, kind of subdue this rogue chieftain, something like that. Or it could be a Viking saga, couldn't it? Well, the Vikings did set up a camp here, a very powerful stronghold of Widbury Hill. We'll probably, hopefully, if I still got the legs, go beneath it. And obviously, I think they captured Hertford as well. That's a bit obvious. I think the Bronze Age or Iron Age version is slightly better, isn't it? Right, so I'm copywriting that now. Maybe that'll be my debut novel, the sort of Heart of Darkness of the River Lea. That's the tagline. What's it called? What's the title of that book? Help me out. Dobbs Weir Lock here is where you can cross over and pick up the River Store navigation, and that is, like I say, that's an amazing walk. It's one of the best I've ever done. But I'm going to crack on along the Lea navigation here. Sorry, it's Fields Weir Lock here is where you cross for the Store navigation. This fantastic old iron railway bridge here over the river. That's the Rye House Speedway track over there. Often coming along here you would hear the speedway races and the announcements going out through the PA. Obviously not going on at the moment. Obviously Rye House is famous for the Rye House plot. So I have written about that in my book, but I wrote that bit a few years ago. The book I've just finished last week, so I'm just editing it now. I can't remember what I wrote about the Rye House plot. I mean, I think it's one of the many plots to get rid of a monarch. But it's a big moment in British history. One of those things that you don't really learn about at school, but it was a very big deal at the time. That's the Rye House pub. Been in there a few times on River Lea walks. I think I've ended a few of them in there actually. Some mysterious timber building there beside the river in the reeds. My guess is that's some sort of bird hide or something. Look at this, isn't it beautiful? I remember walking this stretch one summer's evening, I think it was 2 years ago, towards the end of August. It was so beautiful. The leaves were already starting to change, and it was a kind of golden red tinge to the foliage along the riverbank. Something really liberating about doing a walk. You don't have any destination in mind at all. Where you are just walking until you can't walk anymore. Just walking and walking and walking. Just allowing your feet to guide you, and in this case I'm being guided by the riverbank, by the path here. And I think actually my longest walks have been walks a bit like that where I've not really fixed my destination. I just thought, well, let's just keep going so I can't go anymore. I love this place here. This is the marina at St Margaret's. It's a real hive of activity. Lovely pub garden here, next to the river, and by this beautiful old stone bridge over the river at Stanstead Abbotts. So it's 8 minutes past 6, 24 miles, and a few more to go. So we've got 2 miles to Ware. I think I can certainly do that. 5 miles to Hertford will make it one of my longest walks of all time, I think. I feel surprisingly okay. I mean, not just with the back. The back now is really faded into the background. My left knee is starting to play up a bit. That's the one I had surgery on. This would be beyond its range normally. But I feel okay. So let's see how far we can go. Shows real dedication to do those walking shots at this stage of a walk. Stanstead Lock. Here we have a plane up there coming into Stanstead Airport, but I haven't actually heard that many. Normally there'd be, every 5-10 minutes. Done some walks around those woods up there on the hills. Magnificent around there and down across the River Ash. It's kind of a lovely scene along here. People sitting back off the riverbank playing chess, having a drink and chatting. Babies crawling around on the path. Really, really idyllic. The only problem with these towpath and river walks is you do get very kind of almost like tunnel vision just on the path. You kind of disregard anything either side. Past some delightful lakes back there, just the other side of Stanstead Abbotts. Never been round them, seen them many times. Lock number 3, Hardmead Lock. Fruit and nut mix I bought the other day in Walthamstow is really great for walks actually, so I have to always make sure I've got some of that with me, and I'm going to have some biscuits as well. This is a scene worthy of a painting by Cézanne. I don't know if he ever came to the Lea Valley. I'm sure he would have painted it if he did. It's funny when I think back to being at Springfield Park and down at Tottenham. That feels like a lifetime away, doesn't it? It's just this morning, but it must be about 6:30 now. I can just see the outskirts of Ware ahead. My wife thought I was crazy coming out and doing this today, I have to tell you, and I half agreed with her. But it's been amazing, and there's still more to come. It's my usual pub when I end a walk in Ware, but I am not ending my walk in Ware today. It's only 2.5 miles to Hertford, I might as well carry on. Plenty of time, it's 7 o'clock. I really like Ware. Ware and Hertford are, I think, my 2 favourite Lea Valley towns. They're really great places. Keep being drawn back here every year. Well, this is awkward. The footpath is closed through Ware Town Centre. Alternative route, go along Broadmeads and carry on. Some of these houses along here would be seriously old. So this is the alternative route. Broadmeads. I have great trepidation that it's going to lead to a dead end, but in Embrace the unknown, as they say. Not a dead end, but this path, which is a very welcome sight. And here we are back on the River Lea. That diversion wasn't too onerous at all, actually. It's quite nice to see a little different side of the town. I think in a lot of ways this is the most sort of peaceful and calm stretch of the Lea between London and Hertford. This bit here, this little stretch between Ware and Hertford, is delightful. A little rest on this bench beside the river here. It's just after 7 o'clock. Listening to the traffic thrum over the A10. One of the things that really kept me going to get this far today was to be able to walk into the evening. As you all know, my walks nearly always end at sunset or even in the dark. Certainly the last time I walked to, not the last time I walked to Ware, but the time I walked from Leytonstone to Ware on the shorter route, and I did the last 2 hours in the dark. So this is what I came all this way for. So here it is, the start of the new river. The 17th century aqueduct that was built to carry fresh drinking water into London. And it still does. Some of our drinking water today still comes from this aqueduct, built in, I think it was 1607, I'll put the date on the screen. It flows all the way down through the Hertfordshire countryside and down through London to the new river head on Amwell Street in Islington, and Amwell being the village just a little way along the river here. You see those little rabbits in the field there? There's loads of them. Here we are, Hertford Lock, lock number 1. So as we come into Hertford, I think it's time to close the best boat name of the walk competition. I look forward to hearing your comments below. So far I've narrowed it down to The Hobbit and Life, the Universe and Everything. I mean, you could put another one in if you saw one. There was Odyssey as well. Right in Hertford Town Centre now, or just on the edge of Hertford Town Centre. I won't go too much further. I've just passed my station back there, Hertford East, but I've still got energy, so I'm going to keep going until I think the River Lea Walk, as it is, ends not far up here. And also now is the kind of thing where this was my longest River Lea walk quite some time back, but if I go for another mile it will probably be, I think, my longest walk, certainly the longest walk that I've videoed. So there's some lovely allotments here on the edge of the town. This is a really delightful bit of town towpath, isn't it? Beautiful conclusion to the walk, although we're not quite there yet. Hertford's a very historically important town. It's where the first synod of the Church of England was held. I think that was in the early 7th century. I'll put the date on the screen. It's really beautiful the way the river runs right through the town, as it does in Ware as well. So the Lea Walk is pushing me down here into the town centre. So we had the Hobbit earlier, a boat named the Hobbit, and now we have Took House here, built in 1608. Here we have Hertford Museum, which was built in, date was that built in 1798, I believe. I really love Hertford Town Centre. It's a really beautiful old market town. It was once a very prosperous town, and you can really see it. It derives a lot of prosperity from the trade in grain, sending it down to the docks in London. I think also wool was traded here. It's a very, very wealthy place going right back. And it's a very elegant town centre with lots of old buildings. This intriguing building here is owned by Mullen and Co Limited. It says seed merchants, but obviously they're also the brewers here in Hertford. Delicious beer, McMullen's. Well, I think this bridge here over the River Lea could be a good place to end the walk. It's probably about 8:15 now, and I've walked past the station, so however far I walk this way, I've got to walk back to a station. 30 miles is probably enough today. I wonder if anybody can guess who this chap is before I tell you. Here you go. So he's the Reverend Samuel Stone, born in Hertford in 1602. And he's the co-founder of Hartford, Connecticut in the United States of America. There you go. So it's 8:25, 30 miles. I think it's definitely time to call it a day. So I think this bridge is the perfect place to wind up today's walk. Thank you so much for coming with me. Who'd have thought this morning, when I could barely get out of bed after 4 hours sleep, I'd walk 30 miles all the way up the River Lea from Leytonstone to Hertford. Thank you so much. Thanks to my wonderful supporters on Patreon, and as ever I look forward to seeing you on the next walk, wherever that may be. And after this, who knows, it could be anywhere, it could be any duration.
Well,
probably just be a walk around the block actually, won't it?
From,
Right, I've got to try and find a Hertford East station now, which is at least another 2 miles. I'll put my final mileage up at the end.